Alright, so now A Storm of Swords. This book is definitely the peak of A Song of Ice and Fire. A lot of the fans that I have talked to have said that A Game of Thrones is probably the best book in the series. You know, that whole first is always the best thing. I argue that this is a much more superior book to that great first one. This is the book where a lot of shit really starts hitting the fan. Like, a lot of shit has already hit the fan other times in the first two books, but this is definitely where the majority of it happens. We have a lot of stuff going on. We're left ending with the War of Kings that took place in the bay outside of the Lannister Palace. Tyrion is found and he's severely disfigured after all this, and basically he's removed from power as the hand of the king. So all that hard work that he did has now been completely fucked up since his father Tywin has taken over in his place, and Cersei has made sure that he absolutely retains that position even after Tyrion recovers his health. What I left out of the second book is that we were also told about a character named Davos who had a point of view. He's a knight that serves Stannis Baratheon, and I can't remember why, but for some reason he carries his finger bones in a pouch around his neck, and he's called the Onion Knight. I can't remember why exactly, but he is. He has a point of view, and it's apparently revealed that he survived the battle at the end of Book 2. And he's actually out against Melisandre. He considers her a bad influence on Stannis Baratheon, and the once decent man that he felt that the king was is being corrupted by her dark magic. And there's this whole huge cliffhanger left towards the end of the story. I think it's actually in the middle of it, about his fate exactly. And that's one of the greatest things about Martin too, is I've read his story. His work single-handedly, at least in the area of cliffhangers, he has written some of the best cliffhangers that I've read in any book, and this certainly is some that's left over in this one. A few of those are addressed in Feast for Crows, which I'll cover later, but for right now, yeah, there's some definitely huge cliffhangers at the end of this book. Jon Snow has a whole adventure across the wall. I haven't really talked about Jon Snow that much, but there was a time where I was wanting to do some spotlights on some of my favorite characters throughout the series. I did one on him, but I never picked up with any of the other ones I wanted to. I might do that at some point, but for the sake of this, if you want to know about Jon Snow, go and watch that video on my channel. And there's much more detail about him there. Jon, I will say this, Jon has an entire adventure across the wall where he meets, I believe, Mance Rayder, who has declared himself the king across the wall. And actually at the end of the second book, he's captured by some wildlings, but decides to play like he's infiltrating their ranks. He will eventually be branded a traitor, and there's a whole trial when he gets back across the wall, but he's just trying to see what exactly they have built up. We get more background information on these mysterious others, as well as the whites, which are like these zombies. Like anybody that's pretty much killed by another or another white will become a white. And it's not just limited to humans. There's even a point in here where they talk about a giant undead bear attacking a bunch of the Black Knights as they're scouting across the wall, which is kind of interesting. Another member of the wall that was introduced in the first book, and we now get his point of view, is Samwell Tarly. Samwell is a bit of a bookworm. He's this overweight, crybaby little mama's boy who apparently his dad got tired of him bitching, and he sent him up to the wall to try and man him up and make something that he would be proud of, in at least the only sense that his father could imagine. And he's there. everybody dotes on him except for Jon, who kind of is the only friend that he has. And basically towards the middle of the story, when the kid actually confronts Another during its only appearance in this story that we get a glimpse of Another, this kid manages to find his stones and winds up killing one and eventually becomes a hero on the wall, which is kind of interesting. It was fun watching Samwell grow throughout the story as a character. He doesn't entirely lose the craven side of him entirely. I mean, he doesn't always run from battles, but he still is a little bit of a scaredy cat in some ways throughout the story and into the next one. Arya goes, and she actually has a story where she has left the orphans from Harrenhal and joined up, sort of taken under the wing of a Brotherhood Without Banners, which are like a group that ride around and basically avenge any innocent civilians that have been killed by any soldiers that'll go crazy in a war and just attack a village out of spite, rape, plunder, and all that shit. These guys are the ones that are riding around getting revenge. We have a few interesting characters among them, and eventually Arya runs away from them, and she's wound up being rescued by a person that used to work for the Lannisters, who was like this awfully bad person. And he sort of winds up helping her for whatever reason, we're not entirely sure. And Catelyn. I didn't really like Catelyn throughout this. There were times that I felt sorry for her, and I really feel sorry for her in this story. I will make no qualms about this. As I said before, well, I didn't entirely make this clear. These reviews that I'm doing of the books are more my opinions of them, and not really so much as proper reviews. Catelyn is killed midway through this story, along with Robb, when she goes to the twins, which are like these two towers that are on opposite sides of a river, and they sort of operate like a toll bridge. And Catelyn went there to try and have more allies because there's such a large family of these people. The lord that runs over them is named Walder, and he names all his children and family members in there. All the male ones are called Walder, and they take a female side, and all the women in there are named Walda in some way, which is kind of funny because you have Lord Walder, you have Hand Walder, Black Walder, Short Walder, Fat Walder, Bastard Walder, Simpleton Walder. It's just hilarious reading that. It's like a joke that never gets tired to me when they go and visit that family, but ultimately there's a huge betrayal in there that was sort of Robb's fault. Morally ambiguously it is, and it's a huge tragedy right there too, because there's a point where the Hound, who is the person that Arya is with, actually passes just outside the walls of one of those towers where her mother is killed, and she's screaming to be taken back in because she wound up revealing who she was to him, and he winds up taking her away, and it's just such a sad read when you get to that part. Jaime, Cersei's twin brother, who she's been committing incest with, and actually the true father of Joffrey and his siblings, is given a point of view in this book, and he's actually a villain that you love to read about when he does evil. He's brash, he's arrogant, he endures a little bit of a tragedy, goes through a character arc, and actually winds up starting to change his ways a little bit too throughout the story. And his point of view, along with Jon, Tyrion, and Daenerys, is definitely one of the high points of this book, and really made him one of my favorite characters after reading this. As far as Daenerys goes, the quality of her chapters has picked back up tremendously, particularly because not so much as the way her character is written, but of the tragedy that ensues around her. So it's more action that appealed to me happening around her than anything else. She acquires an army in this story of eunuchs that are kind of loyal only to her. She bought them as slaves and then wound up having her dragons completely destroy the slave master after he was going to double cross her. And she has like this huge army that is now setting sail towards Westeros to reclaim the Iron Throne herself. And we also have a prophecy that was actually given back in the first book of certain betrayals that would happen, and apparently a lot of the guys that follow her, Jorah Mormont, Aston Whitebeard, and the Belwos fella, some duplicity on their part is revealed, whether or not it's good or not, and it's very interesting stuff. And the ending that it leaves you with, as far as all the characters go at the end of the story, is good. Especially with Sansa too, because after Sansa, there is a point where she is spirited away out of the Lannister house by a fellow named Littlefinger, and she winds up going to stay with her crazy aunt. And there's just a whole sort of crazy thing that just goes on from there, which I don't have time to cover, but oh man, this book is just awesome. If you survive a Game of Thrones and a Clash of Kings, definitely pick this one up. I highly recommend it, and that's all I have for this one.